Rotarian. Sorry about that. Happy Veterans Day and welcome to Rotary. If we stand and pray for people
For our veterans, we want to say a little bit. So let's join together and say, God bless America. God bless America. Land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with cold. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, they proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would remain standing. Rosemary Matthews will come and share our invitation.
Also, realizing that today is Veterans Day. Lord, thank you for the courage and dedication of all the men and women who have served their nation in uniform. Remind us that the freedom we so often take for granted today was purchased at enormous cost, that our own lives were ransomed by men and women who laid down their own lives, limbs, health, and fortunes upon the altar of freedom. That many of these guardians still endure wounds to the soul which we cannot comprehend, and that we enjoy today the company of people who risked all so that we and our loved ones might live in peace and safety. Help us to remember their service and learn from their example. Amen.
Amen.
If you all will be seated. Before I introduce the guests today, I wanted to brag a little bit about two of our Rotarians. Jimmy Haynes and Harold Rainey are recipients of the Congressional Veterans Commendation. This award is in conjunction with the Veterans History Project sponsored by the Library of Congress. Their names are now listed in the Library of Congress as the 2024 commendation recognizing their wartime sacrifices and peacetime community involvement. Both Jimmy and Harold managed to be right on a float today, which is Veterans Day Parade. I hope they had a safe landing when they finished the parade. So anyway, I just thought I'd brag on our Rotary. One's kind of special to me anyway. We do have guests today. Lillian Vasquez is a guest of Whitney McGregor. Steve Smith is a guest of Dylan Smith, also. And as a custom, we see the smiling face of our Assistant District Governor, Margaret Ferguson. Welcome to Rotary.
Thank you, Rosemary. Next, we're going to do some November birthdays. First on the list is Dana Parks. I'm not sure who that is. Otherwise known as Dave Broadway, that's me. I like to do all my life events in 1 year, so I got married this year and I'm turning 50. So I'm not sure what else I can stick in through the end of the year, but I'll keep you posted. Yeah. But I'm always reminded of the Saturday Night Live character who says, I'm 50 and I can kick and stretch, and luckily I can still do those things. So also birthdays, Rick Grovey, Vic, Joe Vic, Vince Erickson, Christy Banks, PJ Grace, Richard Carr, Scott Livesay, Tyler Martin, Jim Newcomb, Bob Nolan, Jack Stewart, Ken Surrey, and Thomas West. Larry, would you lead us in singing happy birthday to these Rotarians?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Rotarians. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. These turkey babies, they get lost in the shuffle, so very happy. All right, next, our favorite topic, dues reminders. So dues went out earlier in October. If you did not get an email to pay, please see Joanne. If you did get an email and it got buried in your inbox, please look for it and let's get those dues paid so that we can put those funds to use where they need to go. The other item I wanted to point out is there's a QR code on your table. I think we've kind of given this bill, but before I bring Kate Hall up to introduce today's speaker, the QR code that's on your table, if you could take out your phones and scan that. This is an interactive presentation. So we could get that ready for whenever Scott's ready to spring it on us.
It's up there.
Yep, awesome. So next I'll welcome Kate Hall. Introduce her today's speaker.
All right, I'm happy to introduce Scott Rainey, who is head of the Polio Plus for District 5870. Scott was born and raised in Tulsa and is a proud Sooner.
Boomer!
But he got to Texas, he's lived in Texas over half of his life. He met his bride at church in Clear Lake, so clearly Texas has been very good for him. He is a current member of the Rotary Club of Austin and past member of the Space Center Club in Houston. And I'm going to warn you, he's a past district governor of District 5890. However, he's a lot better speaker than most district governors. So I think you'll really enjoy him today. He is also a major donor and a member of the White Hat Society. I'm not familiar with the White Hat Society. If you have time, tell us a little bit about that. So, anyway, without further ado, Scott Rainey to talk about Polio Plus.
Well, thank you so very much for that kind introduction and thoughts there. So, did everybody, you got the QR code figured out? So, you should have a program that came up called Slido. And what will happen is when the slide comes up there, it'll automatically come up on your phone, and we'll be able to get some feedback from you guys during the presentation. And I really appreciate y'all coming out here on Veterans Day. That is such a special time. You know, people say I didn't have the honor of serving, and I get that, but you know, like, I didn't choose to serve. So those of you who chose to serve, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. And I just, you can't honor you enough. You know, your husband and everybody else. So thank each and every one of you who took that big step and you chose to serve in that such a great capacity. So thank you for that. You know, I'm at, so, you know, I don't know why you think I'm such a big speaker, really, but so I'm really not. Well, it's only once. That's a one-off deal. So we'll get into this. So we're going to talk about polio. And what we want to do is kind of make sure that we're going to look at the big picture where Rotary Smith. talk about your club specifically, and even kind of you guys, each other, and look at the district, and then kind of some initiatives from there. What can we do, and how can we go forward? So we'll just dive on in.
Wherever I go and do my work, the Rotarians have been there before me. It is a very humbling thing to discover just exactly what putting service before yourself adds up to when you see it in practice on the field. When polio is finally eradicated, and you know it will be so, you stand surely in the first chapter of that book. I admire the Rotary Club intervention so much. They're well thought out and inactive. And so I thought no better and I don't feel to send my very best. And I really want to thank and gratitude for this.
So here's the deal. Maybe one of the biggest celebrities in the world knows what we're doing, what Rotary is doing, what each of us are doing in this fight against polio. But I want to ask you, how many people in Waco, Texas, know what you guys in this room and what Rotary is doing around the world? I would guess that it's probably a fairly small number of people might know that. I'll pick on you, you were a guest. Do you have any idea that Rotary has been involved with polio?
Not until a week ago.
A week ago. There was a guest over here too, right? Would you have guessed that Rotary was involved with polio? Do you have any indication of that? Oh, okay, so he's a power of attorney. Well, that's a plan. Okay, so you're familiar. But, talking to Shanna out there, she mentioned that, she had a client that had polio, so she knew someone with polio. How many of you actually knew someone who had polio? So, a good many of them. I just turned 64. If you're much younger than me, 40-year-olds, you probably didn't know anybody with polio. That's kind of where it's at, right? So that's our struggle, is how do we, talk to people and raise money for something that the average person in Waco doesn't really know is going on. And that's kind of what we want to start thinking about. Let's keep that thought process. Okay, grab your phones. So, what do you think of when you hear the term polio plus? Just type in a word or a sentence, a phrase. What does that mean to you? What do you think of? Let's see what the word cloud shows. A program, billion. Paralyzed. Immunization. Reinvent what to discuss. Vaccines. Vaccines more. Rotary International. Eradicate. Close to being eradicated because of Rotary. Old disease. Something else popped up there, so like coming in and see what comes in here. Lifelong physical effects. Preventing infestation. Okay, so, you guys in this room, you got quite a few different thoughts here. The bigger words, of course, are ones that more than one of you entered. So, what kind of illustrates to me is even in a room this small, with a group of us that are all on the same team doing that, we still got a lot of different thoughts about what polio is, what this means, and where we're going. And that's what I think we need to kind of do is look at how do we get ourselves focused again and all on the same page so that we have that one single thought going forward so that we really can achieve our goals. So let's now go to look at how we got here. Let's look at Rotary, the big picture, right? So how did Rotary get into the business of polio? It was back in the mid-70s. The clubs in the Philippines, they all got together and they thought, what can we do? What if we could eradicate polio from our country, from the Philippines? And so in 1979, that's when the magic really began. That's when the Philippines clubs, they gave their first vaccination under their program of eradicating polio from their country. And it really didn't take them very long. They accomplished that goal. And so when that happened, Rotary International took note of that, and they noticed that. And so Rotary then took it, they said, because we're this strong organization, what can we do that really be crazy? And the idea was, what if we can eradicate polio from the world? There's only been one other disease eradicated in the world. Do you know what that is? Smallpox. Only one. So when this happens, it'll be the second one. Think about that. What a big undertaking that was. So this is back in the early 80s, right? And so Rotary goes and they contact the World Health Organization and say, hey, we want to do this. We want to eradicate polio. How do we do this? We want to work with you guys. And, I think that the World Health Organization kind of, it's like your dog, when you're trying to get them to go someplace and they're going to give you the side eye. It's like, nah, I don't know. What do you guys know about that, right? It's like, why don't you go, see if you can raise some money. Rotary said, all right, we're good at that. So they went, this again, in the early 80s. In that year, they raised $125 million for this program. One of the most interesting things I came across, and I've been doing presentations this year, is in Mahia. And that same year in Mahia, the Mahia Rotary Club raised $45,000. That's in the early 80s. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money today. But that's impressive. And that's what Rotary is. That's what Rotary in Texas is. It's big. We do stuff like that. So Rotary then went back to World Health Organization and said, hey, okay, we got this money. Look at this. And they were shocked. I think they were really shocked. They said, you guys really are people of action, aren't you? So yeah, let's do this. Let's get this together. So, World Health Organization, UNICEF, governments, everybody comes together with Rotary's initiative of this. And so in 1985, that's when Rotary gave the first vaccine under the, what's now Polio Plus, the End Polio Now campaign. And in that time, you got to understand, there was almost 740 new cases every single day. 740 children around the world every single day contracting polio. So now, jump forward though, $2 billion of our contributions, over 3 billion children in 122 countries have been vaccinated. And as of today, there have now been, there's 2 countries that were still endemic. That's Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Afghanistan this year has had 23 new cases, and Pakistan has had 45. And 68 cases total. That doesn't sound too bad, but last year there was only 12 cases. So we've really slipped, haven't we? It's what's good. So we all kind of step back and say, well, what's happening? What's going on? And I think there's some information that helps us understand that. When the U.S. bucked out of Afghanistan a few years ago, right? Most Rotarians were worried. What's going to happen? What's the Taliban going to do? Well, the Taliban actually was somewhat helpful and engaging in that. And it was working kind of well. We were having things going well. And even, a few months ago, it changed to where they would even let our vaccinators go into the homes. It was just they would bring the kids to the mosque. But then they said, no, you can go to the houses. Something happened here recently, though, and they kind of backed off on that. So we're having trouble with that. And it's really right along that border, Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is, I kind of gather, is no man's land. I don't know that you probably don't know which country you're standing in. And that's where the struggle really is, and trying to work through that. But another thing, I imagine you guys all heard, there's a case of polio in Gaza. You're aware of that? And so, what caused that? Right? It was the disruption from the war there, right? And that just shows you how delicate our balance is and how we just got to keep being vigilant in this. Now, the good news is, and this is something that I think just says what Rotary really is the Israelis and Hamas, they don't agree on what day it is. But through our efforts, and UNICEF, the World Health Organization, we were able to get them to agree to ceasefires so that we could get in and vaccinate kids. Now, Rotarians didn't do that from a safety standpoint. It was mostly World Health people. But we funded $500,000 for those vaccines. And they did the first one back in September, and then the third round just happened a week ago. So that you guys, we are all making a difference in that conflict just by what Rotary does. And why is that? Because I don't know, there might be some of you here who are Methodists, maybe there's some Jewish people in here. Maybe there's a Republican, Democrat, I doubt it. But, you know, what is the difference in Rotary, right? We leave all that stuff at home, right? When we come in this room, we're a humanitarian group. That's who we are. We have our DNA of what made us who we are. And we're all proud of that. But when we come together, we can accomplish things in the world that others can't. So, data point, I want you guys to remember this, $3. It takes $3 basically to vaccinate one child. And what that does, that's the cost of the vaccine itself, but it's also the bigger cost of all the logistics that go into getting a kid actually vaccinated. So $3, please keep that number in mind. All right, time to go back to the phones. Here we go. Now, just so you know, this is all anonymous, nobody knows who says what. But do you think that your club or anyone from your club donated to polio last Rotary year? Yes, no, or I don't know. Like that's kind of slowing down. Well, in fact, the data shows that your club did not donate to polio last year. You had 0 donations to polio last year. That's what the data shows at Rotary. So that's why I'm here, is to talk about that. Let's figure that out. You know, what's the culture here? What are you guys thinking? What's important to you, and how do we talk about that? Is it something that should be important to you? So, since this question is actually that your club didn't, the next question we can pass, because the next question was, did you individually donate? And so we know, apparently no one in this club did. And please understand, I'm not pointing a finger or anything like that. It's just data, right? I want you guys to take this as data. Let's learn from it. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out where we're at. Because one thing that is very critical that your club does, you're very good supporters of the annual fund. You give $10,000, $18,000, $14,000, $20,000 to the annual fund every year. And that is so important. Keep doing that. Please do that. That's how your DAP grants happen. That's how, international global grants happen. Keep doing that. But let's talk about what can we do now about polio. So, now what let's go, so we talked about the big picture Rotary, we talked about your club, now let's talk about our district. What has our district done? And so you can see here, inside the blue circle, that is the giving over the past 5 years for our district, year by year. And you'll see that the most giving was a couple of years ago, $103,000. And last year, our district dipped down a little bit. We gave $81,000. But to kind of break it back into easier numbers, the highest giving, the $103,000, that's like $48 per member. Last year, it's like $40 per member. I think that's a little easier to relate to. It's how much each of us give. But now, to kind of go a little further, if you look inside the red circle, that's the number of clubs that did not give anything. They didn't give anything. No member in their club, nor the club gave to polio during those years. So you can see, you guys aren't the only one. There's several, about a third of the clubs, right, have been in that. But then again, if you look back over here, in the green, that shows just like you guys, strong giving to the annual fund. And that's great. And you mentioned that I came from another district. And the district over there, we gave more to polio. This district, the history, it just hasn't supported polio as much. And that's just a thing, right? It's not good, bad, or different. It's just a thing. But that's my question. So try to help us figure out how do we generate that interest to make people want to give. I mean, it's kind of like a church, right? If you tithe because the preacher's looking at you and you feel like you got to reach in there, is that why you really want to give? Or do you want to give because it's in your heart, right? And that's where the giving is from. And that's where we should be in Rotary as well. So that's why do we give, right? So anyway, that's kind of where we are as a district. So now, let's jump forward to this year. And the president, or Governor Doug been here with you guys? So you guys have seen Governor Doug, and you've heard a lot of what his goals were. And as we were talking, he and I, we talked about, let's make a goal for every member, or excuse me, for the district-wide giving to be $99,750. So that's a little in between the 101 and the 81, the 103 and the 81. And that's just kind of how we go. But how do we really get there? Well, it wasn't a big calculation. It was $50 a member. And if you remember, jump back, the last couple of years it was $40, $48 a member, right? Now, $50, what does that represent, though? Who's the mathematician in the room? How much does one vaccine cost? $300. So if we get $50, how many vaccines is that? You're quick at math. Very good. 17. And what is that 17 worth? It's 17 what? Lives. Yeah, isn't it? And that's what I want to get back to. It's like, why do we give? What's that reason to give? Well, I don't know if you noticed that song, the YouTube song, at the beginning. It's called Pride and in the Name of Love. And I would tell you that I think we give for the love. That's why I give. That's why I think we give as Rotarians. We got pride in being Rotarians, but it's like we see that we can actually save lives. That's what makes the difference. That's why we give. So that's kind of a picture of where we're going on that. So now you say, well, great, Scott. It's like, we appreciate that. And it's like, it's kind of like the government. It's like, okay, you set this goal out there. It's an unfunded mandate, right? It's like, we want you to do this goal, but yeah, you're on your own. Well, that's not what I hope to do. I hope that what we can do is actually be here to support you, help you guys achieve these goals. And that's what my job is. If I can help you, Governor Doug, I know he's there to want to help you, and that's kind of where we're at. But, so what do we do? How do we do this, right? Well, I think the first thing we really want to think about is how do we get into Waco? How do we get outside of this beautiful room? Each of us in this room, you guys are all know it. You want to do it, but let's reach out. Let's find other sources of funding. Let's find other sources of inspiration and get us into the community. Now, this is a little dated, but I still want to, I kept this presentation the same, just kind of for forward thinking as well. World Polio Day every year is October 24th. And what we had hoped to do is, earlier in the year, was encourage clubs to do something on or about World Polio Day. And I'm telling you, there was events from one end of the district to the other on or around World Polio Day, including, I think, on the 2nd, there was even an event. And it really, I think we're getting out in the community and we're seeing that. It was all kinds of things. But, what I think happens is when we get out there, we raise awareness, we raise money, we might even find new members. But that's something to think about. Maybe, we'd love to see you do something this year, but even if not, maybe it's a seed for your club to think about next World Polio Day. It's always October 24th. So just kind of keep that in mind. Because Sam's Club can bring out 1,000 ice cream sandwiches, and you can give away ice cream sandwiches right for polio. But, okay, now I lost my word. Oh, yeah. So it's like, well, what do you do though, right? It's like you can do all kinds of things. Maybe you want to do a Pints for Polio event. A lot of clubs do that. Or maybe it's a Pens for Polio. I saw the Bolo Bowl or something. Bolero. Yeah, I thought that was a catchy name. I just couldn't pronounce it. But, look at something like that. Or maybe you do a ride or a run or something like that to get out in the community. Again, that's the idea. Or my favorite. It's ice for polio. And most club presidents look really good in ice, so, it's like you're not going to think about still doing something like that this year, but you have to. But what I would say here, most of these events, see, are out in the public, right? You're at a public space, at a public event, or somewhere where there's people that aren't Rotarians. And it's just something to kind of catch their eye and kind of engage them maybe and ask, well, what in the world are you guys doing? Why are you doing that? idea. You know, it doesn't really matter what you do, but do something, right? Do something where you're getting out there, you're letting people know about what this Rotary Club of Waco is doing, or what Rotary International is doing around the world. And, you know, one thing, you know, if you had Governor Doug, you might know that his wife, Lisa, she has a service animal, that's Captain Charles. And so she and I were talking, we said, well, if nothing else, let's bring the dog community in. Let's have like a pause for polio event. And a lot of clubs did that. They would have like a thing at a brewery, but bring your dogs. They had a dog parade or something. But you know, that's a great way to just engage a particular group. Because, you know, most everybody in Texas has a dog. I mean, is there anybody here who doesn't have a dog? You know, maybe. If you don't have a dog, you have a cat. Damn right. Okay, I stand corrected. There's one cat in the house. But you know, it's like, that's just something we can do. It's an identity. It's some place to reach out. And it kind of honors, you know, First Lady Lisa at the same time. So think about that, you know, what you might do. Now, one thing I'd like to know, so do you guys actually know how to donate? How to actually donate to polio? Do you? Who knows? Okay, now see, that's not odd. It's not many people raise their hand. And that's, again, this is information for you guys. You know, there's several ways. One, you can log in to My Rotary on the Rotary National website. Now, you guys are club member club, right? So it's not that login. You got to have a different one, right? You got to register there. But when you do, it knows who you are. You click on the polio button. And then, you know, if you want to do a one-time donation, or do you want to let it set up to hit your credit card for $1,000 a month, it'll do that. So you get a recurring payment. Whatever works best for you. But that's a real easy way to do it from your, you know, from your phone or from your desk, wherever you are, and it happens. And when that happens, like that, it knows who you are, you get credit, and it knows who your club is, and your club gets credit. So it works easy. Now, other people like myself, I like to donate with my company check. So I actually write a paper check, I fill out the form, tick on there that it's for polio, put it in the snail mail, and off it goes to Chicago. And once again, that counts. Or a lot of clubs, what they'll do is you bring your donation and you write the check to the Rotary Foundation and you bring it to your club treasurer or your club foundation chair might collect them. And then they send in a form, but it's a multi-donor form. So each one of you individually still gets credit, and the club gets credit. So it's just, you know, there's various ways to do that, but make sure that we do know that. It's kind of like, you know, what's the basic thing of sales, right? You gotta ask for the order, right? And if someone doesn't know how to place that order, you won't get that order. So just, again, it's information. But then beyond that, do you guys, how many know what the Paul Harris Society is? What is it?
Well, for each $1,000 that you donate, you get a little sapphire or something, and I think you can get up to 8 and then move up to certain level.
That's the process. But the Paul Harris Society, you think you know what the Paul Harris Society is? It's the thing. So that is your commitment to give $1,000 a year to the annual fund. That's when you become a member of the Paul Harris Society, right? So it's a commitment, and then you should do it. So likewise, what we've come up with is the Polio Plus Society. And what we'd like to see is people make that same similar kind of commitment. However, for the polio, it's not $1,000 a year. It's only $100 a year. And we'd like to get everybody in our district to become a member of the Polio Plus Society. Now, on your tables, there's the other piece of paper. It's actually a form that you can fill out. If you fill that out and give that to me, I'm just the keeper of data. I'm not the taker of money. We talk about how you donate. You don't give me money. I don't take money. But that form, or if we run out of those, I can take your name and information, and I keep that database about who in our district has joined it. And Ramirez, remember I told you I was going to get the opportunity to get a pen today, a new pen. You talked about your pen. So if you should sign up today, I have these beautiful Polio Plus Society pens that I would be glad to give you today for you to do that as well. So just afterwards, let me know, and we'll make sure to get everybody committed, because that's what it's about. It's that opportunity just to get it back in our minds, make it something that's routine for us, and then to go do it. So that's what we would love to do. And if everybody in your club, all 137 of you, would happen to do it, then you would get this beautiful 100% Polio Plus Society banner. So that's something to really strive for, and possibly and get to as well. But, you know, the bottom line is, guys, I think this is important. Your Rotary thinks it's important. This is the DNA of our organization. This is one thing that every one of us around the world do. You know, you guys might get scholarships. You might do something else that's so important right here in your community. But this is something that can change the world when we as an organization come together and do it. And it's for pride, isn't it? You know, it's for pride being a Rotarian. But the bottom line is, it's for the love of those children. Each of those children's lives that you save. And that's what it's all about. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you guys about this. And please understand, I understand your club is a different culture potentially about polio. But let's talk about it and let's find out what is it that's important to you. How can I help you? How can we, work with you guys to do a little better with polio? So I thank you so much for this time to be here. Don't everything on the you asked people all about the White Hat. So the White Hat Society, this in here, it's similar to the Paul Harris deal, but it's in increments of $5,000 so per Rotary year. Is how you become a White Hat Society. And the White Hat Society, it's not an official Rotary thing. It's actually run by past Mr. Governor Mullins here in our district, and it's kind of in Texas and the Southwest. It started with President Ron Burton, who was a senator, during his year. That it's to recognize people who give a little more. If you give to polio and/or the annual fund $5,000 in any single Rotary year, then you attain the next level of White Hat. And it gets the same kind of deal, just like Paul Harris. So there's like 10 levels. So that's what the White Hat Society is. And if anybody, you want to go ahead and just get $5,000 to polio, I'll sure help you get into the White Hat Society for that. You can be sure of that. But any questions? Any thoughts? Yes, sir.
So I've actually had a condition take off of that. It's called inoperate. I can never take a vaccine ever again because of the sugar. Do you think the reason why polio is increasing because we had so many Facebook virologists come up with the whole COVID vaccine that people are leaning away from vaccines now, or people aren't trusting the science anymore? Which I don't think they want to do.
So this is only my opinion. And it's strictly my opinion, but from what I've heard, I would say the answer to that is no, because of where we see polio. We don't see polio coming back to the United States. A couple of years ago, there was one case of polio in New York State. It was a man, about a 20-year-old man, who lived in a community who their religious beliefs didn't believe in vaccination, and he actually contracted polio from a vaccinated person who had the live vaccine. So no, I don't think that the anti-vax movements are negatively impacting polio, because again, it's just in that border region of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I was, for several years now, contributed to the Rotary Foundation. It's my understanding that they were using part of that money for Polio Plus. So I always, I guess, just believed that I was making a donation that through the channels was making its way to the Polio Plus. So when it says nobody in our club donated, I'm not sure I understand if that's true.
Well, it's true from the standpoint that no one gave a donation from this club earmarked for polio. Now, what you might be talking about is, our goal as an organization is to raise $50 million every year. That's our target. And that target is because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation matched our $50 million 2 to 1. They match up to $50 million, right? 2 to 1. So our 50 becomes 150 million. And what's happened in the past few years is we have not gotten to the 50. We got to 44 or 48 or something like that. And so the trustees at that point have made the decision to take some money from the general fund and move it over into polio to top off to the 50 to maximize the match. But when that happens, you don't get credit for giving the polio.
I understand that, but I was just under the impression that the money I was giving to the foundation was somewhere, somehow, making its way to Polio Plus, not in my name, but the money itself was given to that.
Sure. And, you know, it's kind of nebulous saying whose dollar went there or not, but that's why we would hope that each of us would designate the two different spots, give to each specific to make sure that we do that. Should you think it's important? Yes, sir.
Now, when giving to the Paul Harris Fund or giving to the foundation, we can designate part or all of that to Polio Plus, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it counts all towards Paul Harris. All your polio giving counts towards the Paul Harris Fund. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Totally separate. The giving to the foundation was all tallied up toward the Paul Harris Fellows, steps 1, 2, +1, whatever. But I never heard that if you give directly to Polio Plus, it also is counted toward the Paul Harris Fellows. But you don't have the matching grants like the foundation has, like the Jerry Jones and those.
The district.
Yeah.
Now, the district, again, this district has been focused in the past on annual fund giving. And so they have historically chosen to make the matches to go towards the annual fund, not towards polio. Yeah, that's just a district choice. You know, the governor or the foundation chair's choice.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Yes.
One thing that I think everybody needs to remember is that polio is going right away. And that even though we're trying to eradicate it, that they don't actually call it completely eradicated until no polio has been designated in the country for up to 3 years. And so that's why it's so important to keep doing this, because we have to make sure that we continue with these vaccinations, because it is polio plus, so we're not just vaccinating against polio. We're hoping with some of the other vaccines that are going on in these countries. But you know, a lot of people think, well, it's almost gone. Well, it is, but we have to make sure for 3 years after we continue those vaccinations to make sure that it doesn't come back.
Yeah, there's still, in India, all the countries are still, you know, having to continue. Absolutely. Anything else? Well, thank you guys so much. I really thank you very much for your time today. And we're very important day with the thanks for having me.
And I think what I was hearing is that if you are just specifically passionate about polio, you can give directly to polio, or you can earmark your foundation giving toward polio. If you're just wanting to give to the foundation and then it's used how it's needed, then that's a way to go too. So it's based on your personal preference. But I did think of who in here has subscriptions that you don't use anymore, they're just continuing, or you're meaning to cancel. I've been paying for Xbox 360 for at least 5 years, and none of my kids are using it, so I feel like Microsoft owes me some money. However, the thought that I was thinking was you cancel one of those subscriptions that you're not really using or getting any value from, and you can switch that to go to Polio Plus pretty easily. And you more than that, you know, $10 a month, and you more than that, $100 a week. Anyway, that was my thought. And so we're definitely able to answer any questions. Reach out to Scott if you have more questions. We want you to feel good about all the information that you've received and what your next steps will be if you are passionate about this, about ending polio. I want to re-welcome our guests. We're glad to have you. You're certainly welcome anytime. And thank you for everyone who contributed to the meeting today. Please, please, please be at our next meeting, November 25th. Not only is that the week before Thanksgiving, it's my birthday. We're going to talk turkey with John Calloway from Mission Waco. I think it's going to be a really good program, so we encourage you to be there. I know it's a busy week for everyone being on holiday. And with that, if you would stand and let's say the Lord's Prayer together. With the truth. Rotary is attended.
How are you? Dominic Rouse. She spoke charter history days. How's it going? All right. Doing all right? Good. Good.
Hello, sir. Hello. How are you?